I am so excited to have you here on another session of the Women's Wellness Summit, Riding the Emotional Waves of Motherhood. And today in this session, I have the beautiful, amazing Barb Kornbrath. And I'm just going to take a couple minutes to introduce her, and then she's going to share with you so many powerful gifts that we all have been waiting for and totally need to use right now. So let's meet Barb. She's a mental fitness coach for moms who specialize in helping moms restore, strengthen, and nurture their relationships with their children. With a deep passion for empowering moves to believe in their own capabilities, Barb guides her clients in recognizing and overcoming the inner voices that unconsciously sabotage, their ability to parent from a place of strength and unconditional love. By teaching her clients to transform their minds from being their worst enemy to their best friend, Barb helps them reconnect with their authentic selves and inner powers, enabling them to lead a more purposeful life and become the best moms they and you can be. Oh my gosh, Barb, welcome so much. So excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself that we did not already go over.
Thank you, Shannon, so much. I don't want to talk too much about myself because it's not about me, but my story, I hope, shows and gives you evidence that no matter what has happened, we can turn it around and we can be our best selves and our best, strongest moms at any age, any age when we finally decide to get out of our own way. So with that said, I really would like to begin by celebrating and congratulating every single mom who's in attendance today, because you intuitively are being drawn to learn something. And it's that seed of curiosity that I did not have as a younger mom. I was autopilot all the way. I didn't even think that there was a summit or research and neuroscience and so much that could help us all reclaim who we're really meant to be. And if anything, I'm hoping I'm giving you evidence that it doesn't matter how old you are. It does not matter how old you are. You can turn it around in a heartbeat. And one of the purposes behind what I'm sharing with you is that every mother is capable of being calmer, of being deeply connected with their children at any age, and for being happier. It's just that too many of us forget that we have that power within ourselves. So that is my purpose here, is to remind us all of our inner strengths.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. So Barb, why do you think, I love that, and we are all here at different ages and stages of motherhood, right? The waves, the emotional growth and education changes. I just think it's unique and it's different as our kids age and as we age as well, right? But why do you think we forget, or why do you think, or how do you think we get disconnected from our true selves?
Life, and we experience so many different situations, and we become conditioned. We become conditioned by our survival brain, and we create habits of thoughts and habits of behavior. And these are such survival tactics that our brain doesn't want to give up. It's really hard to let them go. And when we don't let them go, we are not connected to our true self. So what I'm going to do now to help illustrate that is I want to read a letter or a poem that I wrote as a high school student. That takes us back to the mid 1970s.
You're
So
aging yourself.
yeah, I did. But I wrote this as a high school teenager, and it was published in the high school newspaper. And let me read it. It's called Epitaph of My Soul. When I tasted the first drops of life, they were bitter and harsh. So I built a prison around me and sealed myself against hurt. I taught my heart to be indifferent. Emptiness encircled me. Once there was a chance to break the loneliness that was embedded in my soul, but it was ignored like everything else. Now I lay forgotten as time goes by, unaware of the pleasures of life. And even though you don't know what my circumstances were, you can feel my loneliness, the darkness, the fear, the disconnect. And I had no idea that my survival brain created a bunch of characters in my head to protect me. And I'm very grateful for them as a child, because without them, I could have crumbled. I could have crumbled. All of that darkness could have really overtaken all of the light within me. And it was so helpful then, but what we forget is that with age, we don't need them anymore. And in the practice of positive intelligence and mental fitness, which, by the way, I have to give a huge shout out to Shirzad Shamin, who was the creator and the researcher behind this. He has been my mentor for the past year and a half. And there's so much I could say about him, but I just wanted to give him a shout out. But Shirzad has named these characters our saboteurs. And trust me, our saboteurs are responsible for all of the stress in our lives. They are responsible for our bad and negative emotions. And what Shirzad is named our true self. And who's our true self? The day we were born, even before the day we were born, we were destined to have a life filled with promise. We have so much genius and purpose within ourselves. So that in positive intelligence, we refer to our true self as our sage.
That's amazing. So I hear you saying a couple words here, Barb, and I am not experienced in these two words. And so please, that poem was beautiful, and I feel the resonance. I feel the emotion, the empathy towards that journey. And I'm sure our audience, ladies, you probably do too, right? There's something in there that sparks something in you. So can you define what a saboteur and a sage is? Those are the two words I hear you saying here.
Yes, thank you for that, Shannon. Yes, so we have 10 saboteurs in the brain, and they distort our truth and they distort our reality. And so you can tell that my childhood wasn't that playful. It wasn't that comforting. And yet you could have had an idyllic childhood. And even no matter the case, these saboteurs still are formed in our mind, because when we're children, we don't have the discernment to be able to understand what is really happening is true or false. So if we feel threatened, we create these saboteurs, and they really do have a place. The saboteurs live in our limbic system, which is in the brainstem. The limbic system is our survival brain. They're in the left hemisphere of our brain. And the sage, our true self, lives in a completely different region of the brain. It's in the right hemisphere and in the prefrontal cortex. And the neuroscience of positive intelligence tells us that in order for us to be happier, more successful in life and in parenting, we have to strengthen this region of the brain and weaken and discredit this region of the brain. And if I may, I'd like to share some feedback that I've gotten from some mom clients. And I've collected this feedback over time, and their responses are so powerful that I thought I would not only share some with our audience, but I'd also like to offer this reflection question to our audience, to our mom.
Okay.
And the best time to ask yourself a contemplation question isn't when you're stressed, because then we have tunnel vision and we don't have access to our intuition. So we would ask this to ourselves after some meditation, after a walk in the woods or outside, in the morning before our mind starts racing. So here's the question, and then I'd love to share some of the responses from fellow moms. What is one secret you've never shared about how you feel inside as a mom? What is one secret you've never shared about how you feel as a mom? So let me read some. I feel insecure. I feel completely taken advantage of, and that sometimes that my only purpose is to make everyone else's life easier. No one ever takes care of me. Whenever my kids did something wrong, I took the blame. I feel that I failed my son sometimes. I feel guilty that I put the needs of others before my own kids' needs because I was always volunteering or working. I feel there were many ways I didn't do or be enough. I wanted to raise independent kids, but my fear that they wouldn't be safe created more anxiety than security. I feel guilty that I didn't hear or understand my child's anxiety cries when she needed help. I wonder if I was always there for them or if my busy schedule made me unapproachable or unavailable. I've had so many feelings and fears over the different stages. Overall, I felt it was all on me, like I had to control and I needed to control. I feel responsible for the pain my kids suffered when I put adult responsibilities and demands on them when they deserve to be just kids. I ended up doing what was done to me, and I swore that would never happen. I exposed our kids to heavy words and emotions that they didn't deserve to hear. I'm sorry I wasn't more present for my kids. My mind was always in a different place, never present, and I think I came off as not interested or caring. I'll read one more because I feared becoming a mom. Can I do this? Do I want to do this? I still question, can I do this? But the answer is yes, that I want to do this. I read these because we're not alone. Sometimes we feel so alone, and we listen to those saboteurs' words and we believe them and we trust them and we don't challenge them. We just think that they are who we are. And we are not our saboteurs.
So I resonate, oh my gosh, all these women, and I know they're different women. I resonate with several of them. And, I cannot wait to hear, ladies, our audience, what you guys say and how you guys experience these comments or these remarks from her clients. I was a single mom for 10 years, right? I left an abusive marriage. So the saboteurs, we're going to call them, in your words, right? The gremlins, I call them gremlins, or the things that I heard, listened to, believed to be true, enhanced the way I parented and showed up for myself and showed up for my kids, right? So I have a ton of regrets, especially at the very beginning of my single momhood journey. That's what we're going to call it right now, right? And so absolutely, we have regrets and we have these times of like, I wish I would have showed up different then. I wish I would have not yelled at my kids yesterday when I was stressed because I was late for work and we have to go to the volleyball game and I still have to make supper, whatever that conversation is, right? Also, I really feel like what you're leaning into is compassion and grace. How do we quiet the saboteurs? How do we weaken them, if you will, to create the sage or our real true self to come out in the light, right? And I feel like that has taken me a long time. It's taken me a long time to give myself grace, to be honest with where I was coming from. And I only knew what I knew at the time. So I feel like that's our next conversation, right? How do we give ourselves compassion? How do we quiet these saboteurs to get to the way we intended or the way we set out to be a mom, to parent, to love?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, first of all, Shannon. And I hear you. The word regret is so commonplace in the women that I coach. I have suffered from regret before my mental fitness has grown, because the regret keeps us in the past. The regret keeps us not showing, we're not allowed to show up because we're activating this part of our brain again. And if it's activated, that's it. We don't have access to our sage. So yes, so amazing. And I too look forward to some of the feedback from our moms. But the first thing I want to do is to briefly describe the saboteurs, and then I can explain how we can start to weaken them. And that'll bring us
Perfect.
right into the 3 hacks that you aren't going to expect as a mom because they come from a mental fitness perspective. So
Perfect.
yeah, so the saboteurs, everybody has a judge saboteur. That's the universal one. And the judge is 3-dimensional. He judges yourself. You know that. You know all about the inner critic. Judges others because it just makes us feel a lot better when they're to blame for our misery. And it judges circumstances and outcomes. I didn't like that outcome. Well, let's judge it. Let's judge it. Or Shannon, you can't be happy right now. You'll only be happy when this happens. And that judge of circumstances is always moving the target, and we're attaching our happiness to something outside of ourselves. So the judge is universal. And then Shirzad, he has named the other 9 accomplice saboteurs, and their names are the avoider, the controller, the hypervigilant, the hyper rational, the hyperachiever, the pleaser, the restless, the stickler, and the victim. And what I'd like to do is to actually go back to some of the responses from the moms about, what their inner feeling was on their parenting journey. So I can help identify some of these saboteurs in their statements. Overall, I felt it was all on me, like I had control and I needed to control. Hello, controller, saboteur, and judge. I'm sorry I wasn't more present with my kids. My mind was always in a different place. I was never present, and I think I came off as not interested or caring. Restless saboteur. And the judge. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed knowing I'm responsible for my 2 kids' emotional well-being and safety. Judge and hypervigilant. The judge is always there. He brings in the other saboteurs. I feel guilty that I put my needs and others before my own kids' needs because I was always volunteering or working. The pleaser saboteur, the judge saboteur. I feel guilty that I didn't hear or understand my child's anxiety cries when she needed help. Judge, avoider, or hyper-rational. So when we can identify the saboteurs, we have the judge and we have 1 or 2 accomplice saboteurs. When we understand where their roots, where they came from, and how they are still impacting our life today, then we have an opportunity to change that. But until we do, we are functioning from this part of our brain. The longer we function from this part of our brain, I want you to picture those saboteur muscles getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they get harder and harder and harder to dismiss, to recognize. So that's who they are. And then you ask, how do we weaken them? How do we weaken them? Because that's the key. When we weaken them, we strengthen this.
Shush, shush.
Yes, yes. Shush, saboteurs. That's exactly it. I love that you said that because the saboteurs never go away. The gremlins never go away, but we don't want them screaming in our heads. We'll hear them whisper, but we can change a whisper, recover so much faster. If they're constantly screaming in our heads, we don't have a big chance. If it was 1 judge and 1 sage, maybe, but there's a group of them keeping us in the survival state. The limbic system and the saboteurs are hardwired for stress and unhappiness. The negativity bias, they just cling to it. So, that's hardwired in us. So how do we weaken them? The first thing, we really need more self-awareness to catch them in the act. We need to catch them. We need to know, I call it hijacked. When our saboteurs have hijacked us, they've hijacked our brain. Our brain is no longer functioning as our best friend. It's acting as our worst enemy. How do we know when we're hijacked? I'm angry. I'm judgmental. I'm sad. I feel guilty. Any time we're feeling stressed and not like our true self, we've been hijacked. So it's that alert that it brings us into actually our first mom hack, if you will, But in mental fitness, we call it the first of 3 core muscles that we choose to practice every single day. Because when we do, we weaken and we strengthen. The more we strengthen, the more access we have to being that true self. So hack number 1, or muscle number 1, is the saboteur interceptor muscle. And I basically just talked about it. As soon as you feel stressed, you stop and you label it. You just label saboteur, caught you. Not today. Unhelpful help. However you want to label it, you stop and you label. The next core muscle, the next mom hack that you didn't expect, is the self-command muscle. The self-command muscle is basically after you stop, after you've labeled, you want to step out of the mind and into the breath, or into one of the 5 bodily feelings and functions. And this is where we practice PQ reps. And I'm just going to give you a quick definition of that. We go into the mental fitness gym, we go into the physical fitness gym because we want to build our biceps. This is a repetition. We flex at the elbow, we extend at the elbow. And the more repetitions we do, the bigger that muscle gets. And the bigger that muscle gets, the heavier weight I can pick up. So a PQ rep is like a bicep curl for the prefrontal cortex. The more we do of them, the bigger the emotional challenge we can support in our lives. So the bicep curls help us pick up a heavier object with more ease. The mental fitness gym and PQ reps allows us to handle the heavier emotional things with a little bit more ease. So I'd like to bring us through a couple of PQ reps so everybody has access to it. So if you can, and if you're comfortable at home, and you too, Shannon, just close your eyes. And you're going to take a deep breath through the nose, pause it at the top, and then sigh it out through the mouth. And I want you to do that one more time at your own pace. And if any thoughts or emotions come into your mind, just pull the mind back to focusing on the inhale, the pause, and the exhale. Now on one hand, bring your thumb and index finger together and gently glide your thumb down your index finger and then your index finger down your thumb. Let go of thoughts and command your mind to feel the texture and all the sensations. All the sensations, feel the grooves of your fingers and these digits as you move up and down. Let go of thoughts. Now place that hand on your heart and command your mind to feel your breath move in the body. Notice your chest rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. Let go of your thoughts. Beautiful, and you can open your eyes. So I strung together a few PQ reps. So when we're stressed, we intercept, we stop. We label, caught you. We do some PQ reps to quiet this region of the brain and to activate this. We shift from left to right hemispheres of the brain. The third muscle, the third hack, is the sage. I already talked about the sage a little bit. It lives up here. And we want to ask ourselves, what would your sage say in this circumstance that's stressing me out? I've heard from my saboteurs, they're making me feel awful and stressed, and I'm going to take it out on my child or anybody's around me. So we want to adopt the sage perspective, which is any outcome and any circumstance can be converted into a gift and opportunity. Sage perspective is that any outcome or any circumstance can be converted into a gift and opportunity. So we stopped, we labeled, we PQ repped. Now we want to ask ourselves, what is the gift? What is the opportunity here? What is it? Because that keeps this part activated. And when it's activated, we have access to our 5 sage powers and power gains. I don't have time to go into them, but I'm going to label them. Empathy, explore, innovate, navigate, and activate. Our sage always knows that empathy, curiosity, outside the box thinking, calm purpose, and calm, clear-headed action is always the way to handle anything. Anything. Our sage knows that. And so that's how we start to shift away from here and strengthen here. And if you were to take an MRI image of your brain when you're taking a PQ rep, focused on the breath or a bodily sense, you would actually see a little movement up here. And after 6 to 8 weeks of using the difference too, I'm a yoga teacher, a registered yoga teacher, and I'm a daily meditator. It's easy to access my sage, calm, collected, cool brain after a yoga session. But what happens during the day when I turn on the news, or my child does this, or my partner does this, and it all piles up? Well, then my saboteurs take over. The difference in mental fitness is we have to train the brain to take these increment PQ reps all day long, like just short ones, 10 seconds, 3 breaths is a PQ rep. Boom, you just lit up this part of your brain. The more you do it, when something happens, you stop, you label, you PQ rep. What would my sage say? Which sage power is going to help me be my calmest, best person and mom? And mental fitness was the biggest gift to myself. It's the biggest gift to my kids. And it's the biggest gift to anybody who knew me as my saboteur hijack self. Because if you talk about regrets, when you realize how you functioned before you reclaimed who you really are, you can say, your judge of self will say, oh my goodness, you were terrible. And they'll pound in again. So, and the other thing about mental fitness is that saboteurs are contagious, and so is sage. And your children will feel the difference in you, and they will be curious, especially older children. If they don't ask for our advice, we don't want to give it to them. We want to stay in our lane. But when we share what we're learning, when we share a mistake from the past that we're correcting, they're like, what was that? Like, tell me more. So it's contagious. We need mental fitness. Our children, our family, and the world needs mental fitness. I want you to look around and look at all the judges and all the saboteurs out there. There's no better time to reconnect to what really matters in our own self and what really matters to us all.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Barb, this has been so enlightening. I too, I resonate with the conversation of looking at, first of all, saying stop. And I love that you label it, you call it out. You're like, okay, you think about what it is, what's showing up for you, what's in your brain right now, what's in the attic, if you will. And you label it, you call it out, and you're like, I see you. Right? When you can see it, you're showing, you notice it, you can probably see it and notice it faster when you do these PQ reps, right? When you learn how to utilize this mental fitness more, when our audience connects with you. What I have done that resonates is I get to look at what's underneath what's happening in my life right now, right? And I heard you saying that as well. Like, we get to look at it as what is coming up for me, what is the possibility, what is the growth, what is the teaching moment here. And as moms, I know that I have said, and we've had this conversation, that my children have been my biggest, strongest, most massive education of my life, right? There's been ups and downs, there's been ebbs and flows, there's been words that weren't kind, and there's been an absolute amazing of love. And my kids are at a different place right now. They're 21, 20, and 19, right? So I am at a different space than when my kids were really little at 5 and 6. And I was like, right? I recognize a lot of the saboteurs. I am a really big judge, and I know that my cortisol has always been heightened. So the fight or flight response has always been my biggest issue, in the controller, right? The survival mode. That's my experience, domestic violence and keeping my kids safe and myself safe. So I recognize that significantly. So ladies, our audience, there's so much to be learned here, and I'm going to call it out like it is. The last 3 years has educated us a lot, has heightened our emotions, has heightened our fear, our fight or flight, our cortisol level. And so maybe you're not showing up in your best self. Maybe you have these gremlins or these saboteurs that are showing up more often. You're like, I want to be a different way, a different mom, a different human, a different woman to my significant other, partner, relationships, anything, right? How do you show up different? It sounds to me like mental fitness could be a huge asset to changing the way you show up for yourself and the way you show up for your family. I know that self-development, you get to start with yourself first, right? You get to practice on yourself first. And oh my gosh, if you haven't done it yet already, join the VIP. I know, Barb, you're giving away a bonus gift, the assessment, to figure out where your saboteurs are, who they are, right? And then there is a special free 60-minute session to go over this that you are giving away. That is a massive, massive gift. Oh my gosh. So if you have not joined VIP yet, I encourage you, ladies, this is well worth it to get this massive gift, as well as the other amazing experts gifts that are going to be in here. This has been a beautiful conversation. I have learned so much. I know that, you can't just go into the gym one time and get 6-pack abs and biceps that rock a swimming suit, right? Summer is coming, and we get to create our brain and our mental fitness just as strong. And honestly, it starts from the inside out. So, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. If you have, as we wrap up, if there's one more golden nugget, if you want to share one more inspirational thing before we go, Barb, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I resonate so much with everything you said. And one thing I will say is, when we call out the saboteurs, we're not arguing with them. We're not believing them. We're not trusting them. We have to start separating from the saboteurs, because remember, they make us believe that's who we are, and we're not. But I have one way I want to close that I think would be very, very, another reflection question to our moms. And so I'd love to stop there. So one more time, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and just feel the breath in your body. Notice your chest and belly rise, and notice when it falls, and let go of your thoughts. Just bring your self-command, bring your mind to where you want it to go, to this calming space. And now bring to mind the high school letter that I wrote. And next, ask yourself this question: what kind of letter do you hope your children will write? What kind of letter do you hope your children will write? My letter, without me understanding the saboteurs that were created, I would have continued down the same path of parenting from a controller's point of view, from my judge's point of view, from my restless point of view. And now I don't want to have regret. I get to do it differently. It's the biggest gift. Take a deep breath, side out. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes.
That was like way down in there.
Yeah.
In the depth of the heart. Okay, you pulled out some strings there, Barb. That was amazing and beautiful, and something to think about. And I'm going to be honest, I've been here. My kiddo wrote a letter, and it was the most insightful, eye-opening educational moment that pivoted my entire life.
There you go.
And changed absolutely everything. And so maybe your kiddo has written one. The most impactful, the most amazing and resource that we have is time, right? And we don't have enough of it. We always want more time. And something that I learned recently is the time is now. And every single day is a beautiful gift to change the way you show up for yourself and the way you show up for your kids. And so maybe the letter wasn't so kind. Maybe it was an educational experience. You have time to change that letter for yourself and for your humans.
There's a
Oh
gift.
my gosh.
There's a gift and opportunity in everything. And there were so many
Absolutely.
that came from it. So yeah, thank you, Shannon.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Again, join VIP, ladies. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. You don't want to miss this awesome opportunity. And I believe we're going to have a live session too. So we will talk to you soon in the
Awesome.
next
Thank you
session.
so much, Shannon, and everybody who joined me. I look forward to your feedback, and I look forward to any questions coming up when Shannon shares that with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barb. This was beautiful.
Thank you.